So my name is Tobias Grant, as many of you already know. I'm a journalism student, minoring in individualized studies, with a focus on multimedia storytelling. So today I'm going to be talking about what is a scholarly person. And to start off, I'm going to talk a few of the traits that I think define a scholarly person. First of all, they should be passionate. They should care what they're doing. If they don't care really what they're working on, what they're doing, how can they really put the same kind of effort in it? So they should also be dedicated, which is really important, that they're putting all of the effort they can into it. You know, if you don't really care, you're not passionate about it, it's really hard to be dedicated with it. So those two kind of go hand in hand. You have to be ethical, and whether that's following a set of guidelines that are, written down, like in journalism, there are many codes of ethics that you can refer to, but they don't have to be written down. And many people will tell you unwritten rules of ethics are preferable because they're not clearly defined. Accuracy. Many of you are also journalists, so accuracy, as you know, is key. And that's not just true of journalists, but it's true of any scholarly person. It's their credibility. If they misrepresent the facts or plagiarize, they ruin their credibility, and they are no longer seen as a scholarly person. They should be well connected. The more people you know, the better you can communicate, and you can reach out. So that goes in hand with being knowledgeable. So you need to know enough to know when you need to reach out for an expert opinion. You can't know everything. So you need to know enough when you need to, so that you know when to go out and get more information, where to look for that information, who to talk to. So that goes hand in hand with being well connected. Finally, you have to be able to communicate clearly in the medium that's most effective for who you are trying to communicate with. So for a researcher, that's probably going to be a research paper, a report of some kind. For a journalist, that's going to be any number of things. So it's going to be a written article, could be a video, could be a podcast, could be over the radio. You just need to use the medium that's most effective for getting your message out as a scholarly person. So I was asked to pick an everyday hero. So I picked one of the editors that I look up to. Nilay Patel is the editor-in-chief of The Verge, which is one of the top 10 most popular blogs on the internet. It focuses mostly on technology, science, art, and culture, which are 4 areas that I hope to pursue in the future. He actually doesn't have a degree in journalism, which I found interesting. He actually has a poli-sci degree from the University of Chicago and a law degree from the University of Wisconsin Law School. He went into journalism and was the managing editor at Engadget, came to Vox Media at The Verge, and he used his education to his advantage. So why is he a scholarly person? He used his law degree to explain very complex issues relating to tech firm lawsuits that have become quite prevalent in the recent past, especially those between Apple and Samsung. Samsung made some phones that look kind of like iPhones. Apple kind of got pissed. Sued for a lot of money. He made that understandable for people. His understanding of law became an asset for him as a journalist. So that's why he was a scholarly person. So for a bit of a departure from that, I'm asked to define my academic and professional plans for the future. So give a little bit more information about myself. I'm a journalism student, and I'm minoring in individualized studies. The reason for this is originally I studied photojournalism, but I felt that the single-focused programs at Winona State were too limiting. Focusing primarily on photography was not preparing me to write. There was no emphasis on pushing me to learn other things and become interdisciplinary. So I looked to individualized studies, focused on writing, which is one of the key things that I really wanted to do. And individualized studies allowed me to look into multimedia storytelling and convergent journalism, using multimedia forms to tell stories more effectively. I chose journalism because I love to write, I love photography, and journalism along with the individualized studies minor allowed me to do that most effectively. I enjoy learning as I do so. A lot of the stories I write require me to reach out to people who know more about the topics that I'm writing about and then do some research of my own before I actually write the article. That has a lot to do with writing about technology. You don't always fully understand the concepts. So I enjoy the challenges. My minor has allowed me to take classes inside the Mass Comm department, which normally isn't possible. You can't take a Mass Comm minor if you're a Mass Comm major. And this has allowed me to take things like multimedia news and information and learn about video production and audio production. I'd never worked with professional video equipment before. And then it also allowed me to bring in a lot of my background in photography and put it towards my degree. So my professional plan is, after academia, pretty simple. Find a job doing what I love. Use the skills I've developed at WSU to become more versatile as a storyteller, and with any luck, use the skills I've acquired at WSU to become a more valuable member of whatever publication that I'm looking for. So, storytelling. I was asked to give 2 stories from Luck Is No Accident, one of the books we read for CE 300. And these 2 really stood out for me. Making the Job Fit for You. This woman took a consulting job after bouncing around Europe. She had no idea how to be a consultant. After a few months, she was given a layoff notice, and she fought it, became much more successful, and eventually started her own consulting firm. The message of the story was, she may not have known how to do the job, but she made the job work for her. She made the job mean something to her. She put forward her personality into the job. And for me, that means, I might not get a job writing about technology at a school, but it doesn't mean I can't write about technology wherever I work. So, making the job fit. Another one is not perfect, but better than average. This is something that I push myself through my education. This person who never learned to type in high school, hunt and peck, plenty of us do that. He found himself in front of a computer on his first day in the newsroom, being asked to type out some stories. And he discovered that he had an advantage because he could hunt and peck a little bit faster with more fingers, with 3 fingers in fact, not 1 or 2. So his stories came out a little bit quicker than the next guy, and he stood out because he was just a little bit more than average. So, talk about my moonshot. I would love to start my own publication writing about technology, science, agriculture. It's probably not going to happen, but it's the kind of thing I put on my fridge and look at. I'd like to develop a reputation for objective and innovative reporting. There are a couple challenges I'm sure to face along the way. Journalism is dominated primarily by white males, and this leaves fairly little room for diversity in the newsroom. And that's a problem for any publication. It's a detriment to them. And then in the media, the landscape is always changing. You might write about one culture one week, another culture the next, and staying objective and keeping your own values from influencing your opinion of that culture is really important. Ethnocentrism is a huge problem in the media now, where the media is applying American values to cultures that are vastly different. So those are 2 of the challenges I'm sure to face going into my career. There are some socioeconomic and professional benefits to an education. Our society values education. You are perceived as a little bit less if you don't get an education of some kind. If you don't graduate high school, you don't get a college education. It's viewed as a necessity in this culture. And that may not be true for journalists, but it limits your ability to move forward. In my family, I've become the go-to for anything involving the news. Explain what's going on in Syria, etc. There are some financial benefits, and while a degree is not necessarily required, it does allow you to move up through the company, going into positions like editing, that kind of thing. You might get paid a little bit better. And as shown in my example with Nilay Patel, the education he got was not in journalism, but he used his education to his advantage. So any kind of education makes you more valuable than without one. Professional benefits, of course, education opens doors. It's going to make it easier to move up the corporate ladder if that's your plan. You might be offered jobs quicker and more readily if you have an education versus somebody without one, and you have that opportunity for advancement. Thank you all very much.
She just stared at this.
Now you can all laugh.
Career freaks out.
So.